I hate to start.
To do the business of the Cherokee people. We pray that you will be with us and be with our constituents. Just keep them safe from all the hazards that are out there right now. Protect them. We pray that you will be with our servicemen, both here and abroad. Keep them safe as they fight for our freedoms. Be with us as we leave here. Give us traveling graces on the way home. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Shelley, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Harley Buzzard. Keith Austin. Joe Bird.
I'm in a meeting.
Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere.
Honey.
Mike Dobbins. Kanan Duncan. Rex Jordan. Daryl Legg. Wes Snowfire. Dora Katzkowski. Mary Baker Shaw. E.O. Smith. Janice Taylor. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
All right, good deal. If everybody's had a chance to look over the minutes, could I have a motion? Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? It carries. Okay, reports. Human Services. Jennifer Kirby, are you there?
Okay.
We got to get Joe Deere off that screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You might.
All right.
There you are. All right, go ahead. What do you got for us?
Well, first I'd like to ask if you had any questions about our report.
Does anybody have any questions for Jennifer's reports? Here comes Chief of Staff. Here he comes. He's, all right. Chief of Staff, you got something?
If I might, just to dovetail on what we discussed earlier regarding the percentage and numbers of light heat participants and what their consumption is. And so I asked Jennifer to do that earlier, and she provided that information. And Jennifer, you would share it with the council so they're aware of what our breakdown is.
So, our light heat participants, we had last year, we had electric was 692, natural gas was 464, propane 623, wood 89, and pellets 10. So that kind of gives you an idea of where the majority of our percentage of energy, what their source of energy is for heat.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Because I have a comment real quick. All right, I've had a ton of questions about when are checks going to go out for this program, our new program.
For the COVID relief funds,
Yes.
the emergency assistance.
Yes.
I believe the payments were going to go out this week. I don't have a specific day. Of when those are starting, but I know there was going to be a couple of different opportunities to use two different ways for those payments to go out. Is the Chief of Staff still in
Yes, he's still here. Chief of Staff, you got anything?
I was waiting to see what you were going to say, Jennifer. Right now, well, as of Friday, we had about 25,000 applications that were submitted.
That's good.
And 25,000, more than 25,000. And so what we have done so far is the Human Services staff, Education and Career Services. We have about 65 people that are reviewing applications, verifying that they're citizens, that their information is accurate, and documenting the need. And so they've marked about 9,300 of those applications as approved, and it's a two-step process. So the first level marks it, reviews it, makes sure the address is deliverable, documents the information in the system, make sure it's a good application. If there's anything missing, they'll contact that individual to try to fill in the gaps or correct any incorrect information. And then it goes to level 2, which is most of the management team inside Human Services. They're just doing a second review just to make sure that everything's okay. So we've extracted 9,300 of those on Friday. Our IT team is processing those and doing address validation through a system called Melissa Data. And the treasurer has felt more comfortable given the way these applications were processed and as opposed to the elders. So we are going to use a payment process system similar to what we did with the kids and the education assistance and clothing assistance applications that we processed. So if you'll recall, we sent out $22 million in the first 24 hours, and that was sent to all of their bank accounts. So it puts the money in the citizens' hands a little bit quicker. So it is our hope that those emails will start to go out this week. We're going to send a precursor email to let all of those citizens know what to expect as far as who you should see an email from or potential text messages. And that way they're confident that they're not receiving spam or anything along that line. So that precursor email will go out early this week, and then hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest, we hope to see that email come out, email or text messages come out from Chase Bank.
Okay.
And then for those that do not have a valid email address, we'll just cut them a paper check and send those out directly to them.
Okay. What if people haven't heard anything by Friday? Say people haven't heard anything by Monday. Would you just suggest they call Human Services?
That information is based on the 9,300 that are approved. And so there's 25,000. So there's still more than half that are pending review, or about half that are pending review. So I would say by the end of next week, if they haven't received an email that says they've been approved, they should begin to call and ask questions.
Okay. Sean?
I would say by the end of next week.
Week.
Yep.
End of next week. Now, Todd, where are we on? I'm still getting quite a few calls on people who applied back when, and I've been telling them if they applied then that they don't qualify for this one. So, do we still got stacks somewhere of those names and numbers that Human Services took? How's that stack looking?
So I believe Jennifer's team has processed all of those. I don't know if, I'm looking at Jennifer to, have you come across any that haven't been contacted or were missed or anything that you're aware of?
No, it does appear we had a list of over 1,500 that we went through, and any that, I mean, we don't have a stack of applications sitting anywhere that have not been processed. So,
The stack I was referring to was sometime, well, a bunch of them were just told to leave their name and number.
That's that list of 1,500 she's referring to.
yes.
Okay, and I can get with you on
I was
some.
going to say, if there's any that
Okay.
Yeah.
you feel like have been missed, I mean, one, they
Okay.
could apply online and go ahead and apply there. And if they have been processed previously, we can,
So I should tell them, go ahead and
yeah.
apply.
I'd tell them go ahead and apply if
it's
they
been this
haven't.
long?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see, I think that was it. I might have another one for you, Lee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Victoria, did you have some?
Jennifer, when a person applies online, should they get some kind of confirmation back that their application was received and reviewed, or Any notice that it went through?
Yeah, they get a confirmation email that basically shows a breakdown of the information that they submitted.
Say that again, I didn't understand part of that.
It shows kind of a breakdown of all the information that was submitted. So yeah, there is a email that comes back to them, to that email address that they put on their application.
Yeah, and that email comes from me.
Okay, thanks.
Mary Baker Shaw?
Hi, Todd, I was grateful that you allowed the at-large to apply for this. Can you tell me, will any of the at-large receive part of this COVID relief money?
I believe so. You know, we stated that we would give first preference to those residing in the 14 county jurisdiction, and I think that with our allocated funds and the number of applications, that we should be able to address some of the needs inside for the at-large residents as well.
Thank you very much. What a
So if I'm understanding it right, and I've had a few questions about this too, the 400 and the 1,200 have nothing to do with this program.
Yeah, so
That's correct.
just a real quick summary on all the programs that we've done. So we had education assistance, which was $400, and then $150 additional for clothing allowance. And then if they were low-income eligible, it was additional $150 for each of those children. We had elder assistance, which was $400 per elder. And then we did utility assistance, which was up to $1,200, essentially $1,200 for those that resided inside the 14 counties. And we had disability assistance, which served about 4,000 citizens, and that was at $300 apiece. And then now we have this emergency assistance application. And I'm working on another.
Anybody else?
Right here.
EO?
Jennifer, so if they put in January and they haven't received an email confirmation, that means they're not going to get it? Or I've had quite a few that said they applied in January and they've not received any kind of communication.
They could probably, one, they may not have an email address that they put on the application. And they're welcome to call us at extension 5464 to see if it has gone through. We have people answering that number specifically to answer those type of questions, if it's just reassurance that their application is there.
So, counselors, just to reiterate, that number is 918-453-5464. And it goes to a pool of operators that will answer the questions, and they have access to the database so they can validate to see if their application was submitted.
Did you say 5464?
Correct.
Okay.
918-453-5464.
Does anybody else have any questions for Jennifer? Sean?
Can we use this number for questions about if they got the wrong amount or if they thought they did? Can we use the same number?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's questions or concerns about that, then they can contact that 5464
Okay.
number.
Thank you.
Mary?
Hi, Jennifer. I was noticing in the Indian Child Welfare Report, are you covering Indian child welfare at this time?
Yes.
You are. What's your interaction with Indian child welfare? I'm just curious.
As far, I have directors meetings with their director. We stay in pretty good contact, just like with any of the other department directors. But now, do I know every detail about Indian child welfare? Probably, still in a learning curve with that.
Well, I guess I'm just concerned that when we have 1,881 children that needed assistance in December, I wish we were having Indian child welfare reporting to us. I feel that those children deserve their day with someone totally representing just them in council. And the other thing I wanted to ask, do you know what the average response to notice time was this year, that month? It's not in our report.
No, but I can get that for you. And I do believe that when Marsha Lamb was in this position, that it was every 2 months that had been requested for ICW to be present.
See, I guess there's just a part of me, we're talking about our children. And I feel that they deserve representation in front of this council. I really deeply feel that way. And I don't know what the other counselors feel, but I'd love to hear your input.
So are you saying that every 2 months ICW will report?
That they were to be on the same call with me at the same time for this committee meeting for them to ask any specific questions of ICW. I think that was the kind of the agreement.
Well, why don't we start that next month?
Okay.
They'll be here next month. Have them here this month, or next month, I'm sorry.
Counselor Shambaugh, do you feel that that's enough? I mean, representation quarterly or for our children?
Well, I guess it depends what you're wanting.
I'm wanting someone to sit here and tell us how many of our children needed help, how many outside of jurisdiction needed help, you know, what the problems are, what their needs are, and how we can help.
Well, I would say, let's bring them in next month. Let's ask our questions, and then we'll determine upon what we get for answers, whether we feel that we need it every month or every other month, or quarterly.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just play it by ear and see how it goes, and we'll decide if we think we need to hear more often.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Wes?
Just far as following up with Counselor Shaw, what she had said, one of the problems that I know that ICW has as far as not just the children, but the parents, a lot of kids find themselves in situations either on their own or just by happenstance where something wrong took place in a household and that child gets removed and gets placed with ICW in an emergency care situation. And so you as a parent, mother or father, what are you going to do? And so you ask yourself that question, what would you do if your child gets taken from you? Do you know your procedures of how you're supposed to handle yourself or conduct yourself to get your child back? The answer to that is there's nowhere on our ICW website, there's not even in our courts, a procedure of how to conduct yourself as a family or a parent to get your child back. And that is a concern of mine. I think that's the reason why Counselor Shaw, and now being myself, want to have them come before us, is because I think that's a very big issue. If the number one goal with our kids is reunification, how can we reunify them if the parent doesn't know the procedures unless we hand it to them after they've requested several times? Even through the court, the procedures through the courts are unaware of what's going on. Do they have to go talk to the AG's office? The answer to that's no, because the AG represents the child in those matters. So there's a very big gap between making sure our children are protected under the court, but also the parents knowing the proper procedures to follow up through the courts and having proper representation. And I think that's a big issue is whenever we don't have legal representatives for our parents who are struggling to figure out how to get their kids back because they're going against the AG inside a courtroom that's not going to be in their favor. So yeah, I'm all for having them come forward so that way maybe we could work on some ideas to help that out.
Well, maybe if we're talking about the future too, if you're talking about McGirt and what McGirt's going to bring to the tribe, we will basically have a lot more responsibility because we will be getting all those Native children in our system. So as far as representation goes, if you go through any type of deal where kids are taken out of a residence, and correct me if I'm wrong, but and there is a court proceeding. If you are indigent, we will have to have attorneys who represent indigent people, or in a lot of cases that will probably be, we will have to provide court-appointed attorneys for especially if it's a criminal matter, then we obviously will. But on civil matters or neglect, I guess you'd say, which still can be criminal matters, we're going to have those assets in place.
That's kind of the big issue too, is that I've seen neglect, I've heard of neglect cases and where, they don't have representation, and so they don't know what to do. And you got to think, the representative district that I'm over, they've never found themselves in the courtroom a day in their life. And so they go there and their child is crying, wanting to come back to them. It could be misunderstanding. I mean, there's as being a sheriff, there's a lot of people that just get wrong place, wrong time. And so that happens even with our children and with our parents. And so having some sort of aid system that we're going to have them out legally would be something that I think is greatly needed for our Indian people to understand the system. So, all right, appreciate it.
Yep. You need further response? Are you good? Jennifer?
Yeah, no, those are all things that I can definitely get with Lou to talk about, and we'll, be on the next call together.
Anybody else? Okay, Jennifer, thank you, and let's move on to Michael Lynn. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the council. I know you have our monthly report, but I just do like to highlight just a few of the projects and some items of particular interest. Just to start with transportation projects. Malloy Hollow Road project in Adair County is in the right-of-way acquisition process. There's 32 parcels total on that project. 10 out of the 32 have been acquired, and 7 of those parcels are trust and restricted parcels that are in the appraisal process right now. Moving on into Cherokee County, Northeast Fort Gibson project is about 85% complete. I do believe that project has been fully asphalted. However, that's just the first lift. There's another lift of asphalt going down. Once that's down, they'll be doing sign stripes, guardrail, and miscellaneous stuff to get the project wrapped up. The Hulbert Lost City project, also known as Grace Hudlin Road, was recently awarded. The contractor has mowed equipment on site and is trying to locate a borrow source right now. We do anticipate him starting very soon. I think the weather has set him behind us some. Mud Valley Road in Cherokee County is also in the right-of-way acquisitions phase. There's 77 parcels on that project. 12 offers packets have went out to been presented to landowners, and others will be presented to landowners in the very near future. Moving on into Craig County, the Northeast 4340, or what we also call White Oak Road, is under construction, about 35% completed, and again moving along well. Just a couple more. Chimney Rock Road, Mays County is in the clearing and grubbing phase. They have scheduled to have the clearing and grubbing done by March 31st due to an environmental constraint that we have to abide by, and they're working towards that. And then lastly, the Dwight Mission Road project in Sequoia County is still under construction, about 40 to 50% completed and going well. Last thing on transportation, I do want to mention, we've been working with Kim Tee's office and Ashley Fox. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember her last name. Ashley Fox on moving the transportation program over to self-governance under the Department of Transportation. We sent a letter to USDOT on February 10th, which was a letter for a request for eligibility determination. We feel like we are eligible. We needed to tell us that, however, and then we would begin moving a compact negotiation process with them. They do have about 4 months to respond to the letter according to the regs, but we anticipate a response from that in the coming months. We expect it to be a positive response. We've had a couple of meetings with them, and have seemed to have gotten some positive feedback from them. It's just a formalities process that we have to go through. As you know, we have not just in transportation, but among other areas in the tribe, we have a lot of self-governance experience, and we look forward to compacting the transportation program, which would include not only the construction side, but also the federal transit side. So we're looking forward to that. Lastly, I want to mention in the water and sanitation, environmental health water sanitation program, they have been assisting the town of Vera with wastewater treatment system issues, as well as recently, right before the snow and ice or whatever weather hit, there was a lot of emails being circulated around about Cherokee and Adair County. They've been assisting a great deal with the Cherokee Rural Water District with the water loss issues that they have been having. And then I also want to mention, as far as water and sanitation, their office in general goes, they did have a water line burst last week, about midweek, inside the building, flooded about half of the building. There's about 13 staff that have been affected. Mr. Hicks has put together a very, very good plan as far as trying to relocating those 13 staff. We don't expect there to be a delay in any response that we're given, phone calls and emails and things of that nature. But they are in the process today as far as moving out of these offices that were affected by this flood. And also with that, I would like to commend Tracy Bluebird with the Cherokee Nation Health Facilities staff on his response. It was phenomenal. That's all I can really say. That building is owned by Indian Health Service, so that responsibility does fall under Cherokee Nation Health Facilities. But as soon as Tracy heard about it, he got staff up there. He got a remediation company ready to go. The remediation company was on site immediately, getting the water sucked up. But they were on site today. Got sheetrock cut out already with dryers going. They've had dryers going all weekend, but dryers going today with the sheetrock cut out, and then to begin the remediation process. And then lastly, I also want to thank Shelley McLean with the Cherokee Nation Procurement Department. They needed storage containers to move all of the desks and office equipment out of and into these storage containers. And within one day, Shelley made some calls and got things arranged, and we had 2 40-foot storage containers on site the next day. And so big thank you to them as well. Mr. Chair, that is all I have to report, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Harley?
Michael, I probably didn't hear everything that you said about moving transportation and federal highway roads under the self-governance program. Why are we doing that, and what's the advantages of doing that?
Well, anytime we can move to a program under self-governance, it's advantageous for the tribe as a whole. We were under self-governance, Harley, if you'll remember, with the Department of Interior. When we transitioned from the Department of Interior over to Federal Highway Administration, that was not necessarily a self-governance agreement. We had what we call a program agreement with them, which was a sort of a quasi self-governance agreement, but it was not true self-governance. Now we have the ability, where we didn't before, we have the ability now to compact directly with the U.S. Department of Transportation for these programs. So I hope that answers your question.
Is that how some of the other tribal transportation departments and other tribes, are they moving that same direction, or do you know?
They have the option, just like we do. I do believe, according to the conversations we've had with the FHWA leadership, that the Cherokee Nation has been the first to request this or make this request for self-governance. So I believe we may be the first tribe in the nation to request this, and I'm hoping that once we do get approved for this and we get a compact negotiated, we will be the first tribe to compact with them.
Okay. And I have another question. I guess it'd be a question is on our motor fuels tax road that each tribal council member gets to allocate to their districts. I just wish we could get more signage out. I know I haven't requested any, but I wish it would, the roads department would take it upon themselves just to get that done. I know there's a project that I've spent probably close to $200,000 on, and there's no signage out. And the reason I say this, and I think, Michael, you probably know, but just for the other council members that a lot of times when you put a new road out there and you get the county commissioners to go actually do the road, and citizens, Cherokee citizens and non-Cherokee citizens drive by, and they just think it's the county doing it, or they think it's the state of Oklahoma's doing it. With McGirt coming out there, I think we need to toot our horn just a little bit more. And if we don't have those signs out there saying that it was paid for by the Cherokee Nation, they're just going to assume that the county spent their money to do it, or the state did their thing. So if you would or could, and I don't know, I know we do a lot of those projects, but maybe we could put a dollar amount. If it's under 25,000, we don't put a sign up. But if it's over 25, just do it. I have talked to county commissioners, and the ones I've talked to, they're happy to put the signs up if we would, make the signs for them. But however you can work that out, I wish we would, because I just think the nation needs to toot their horns a little bit more about what we're doing as far as infrastructure for communities and stuff like that. So anyway, if you would take a look at that and see if we could do that. I would like signs up, that says where our money is going out there too. And I don't know how the other council members feel, but, I feel like that the nation needs to let our citizens know and non-citizens know that, we have input, or are we doing putting money in those roads out there. So if you would take a look at that and see if there's something that you work out between you and the county commissioners on it. Okay?
Certainly will. Certainly will. Definitely. I agree. We need to let folks know where those funds are coming from and who's responsible for paying for the projects. We'll work up a plan and get some signs out there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Chairman, along the line of what Councilor Buzzard said, are we looking at putting signs up as we're entering our jurisdiction or our reservation? Are we ever going to change that wording? Because if you're in Osage country, it will say you are entering Osage Reservation. Is that something that we're looking to do as people are coming into our area here?
That's an excellent question, and that actually, and I assume, Speaker, you're referring to traveling on the state highways, usually where you see those signs. And the issue with that there is the need, or we just have to work with ODOT to make that happen. And we need to have those discussions with them to see if they would be willing to allow those signs to be placed on their right of way, which is what it is. You say they're already there in Osage, entering the Osage Nation. If they are, that's probably, in my opinion, that sets a precedence.
Right.
But we just need to work with ODOT to make that happen. Years ago, there were some signs. I think there were brown and white signs, and I don't recall exactly what they said, but there were some brown and white signs that were placed around, and I think those signs have came down over the years. Just for reference, the brown and white signs is designated like a more of a historical item along a state highway than a territorial type item. So it may need to be changed from a brown sign, which again means something to certain folks, to a different color sign, maybe a green and white sign, which is more of a regulatory sign or informational sign. So,
Sure.
But yeah, let us talk have a discussion with ODOT about that and see if we can get some of those put back up.
Okay, they might be in the plans already. I'll tell you what, a really unique sign is when you're leaving Cherokee and you're going into Skytook. There's a big sign there, one of the very first signs that says you're leaving Cherokee and you're entering Osage. I think that's the only sign that I've seen that tells leaving one jurisdiction and entering another on the same billboard there. That's a neat sign. Chief of Staff, could you come in? I need to ask you a question. And I know you guys may have already asked this. I may have overlooked it. Earlier, I talked about the purchase of the land there in Sequoia County, the 4.3 thousand acres or 100 acres there. Is there a need anymore to be asking to put land in trust?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so we're probably waiting on a little bit more of court case law.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I don't think it would hurt us to put it into trust ever, but I think that's a good question, and I'll tell you, that's the question we ask ourselves every day is when we're doing something, is this going to be different regarding McGirt? When we declare an emergency inside the Cherokee Nation and the state of Oklahoma declares one, and how's that going to work in the future? And so it's a great question.
Okay.
And I certainly will visit with the Attorney General's office, but I think that's a good question. But my personal opinion at this point, I would say it probably would never hurt us to always put land into trust.
Sure, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Anybody else? Chief of Staff, you might stay. You might hang around a minute. Michael, I don't know if you've had any calls, or I know Chief of Staff, we had this conversation about people whose pipes have frozen and busted. Is there any thing in the works with maybe getting some plumbers to help these people out who are still without water because their pipes are busted?
I've got Michael Lynn with about 4 miles of PEX and all the fittings he can get established. That is something that we are looking at and hope to have an announcement very, very, very soon.
I know that there's some people in my district that are getting a little antsy.
Yes.
They've been out of water for, numerous days, and it's getting a little rough.
Yeah. We've realized that was going to be an issue. And as I shared with you guys earlier, I'm one of those individuals that suffered from a burst water line in our house. And I will tell you that several of the home improvement stores look like the grocery stores prior to the snowfall. There wasn't a stitch of plumbing materials to be purchased. And so we do have a plan, and I'm hopeful that we can announce it within a matter of hours or a day. So it may be later on this evening, or it could be first thing in the morning. But we do have a pretty aggressive plan.
Would you let Gail make sure that we all get that as soon?
Yes. And the other thing I would encourage you to do is if you do, we did post this on Facebook, if you do have citizens that have been impacted by this, the state of Oklahoma, through all 77 counties, declared public assistance. And so it deals mainly with right-of-ways, large organizations, things like that, that were impacted by infrastructure, things like that. So rural water districts might have lost a tower or incurred $15,000 to repair a water line. Those are under public assistance. Individual assistance is for individual homeowners. And they did not declare individual assistance, but they have 14 days to amend that declaration, and they are doing personal damage assessments on their website. And so you can plug in their information, whether tribal citizen or not, and they can plug that in there, so the state of Oklahoma may be able to add individual assistance as part of the FEMA response. So I encourage everybody to go out and fill that out, but we're also trying to find ways to directly impact and assist our citizens inside the 14 counties.
Is there anybody else? EO?
I think, like this morning, I was visiting with the two biggest hardware stores in Sequoia County, and they're out of PVC stuff. And they said they can't get any, and they were already low before this hit. So I think that's going to really be a big problem if you could find a plumber, if we're going to have supplies for them to be able to fix it. So we're going to have a lot of people hurting, and we may not be able to do anything for a while.
Yeah. I've run the numbers, and it's daunting as far as the number of individuals that have been impacted.
All through this thing, we've been through a pandemic. We've been through this, and it seems like every couple of months we're running into a lot of things that are daunting. What you guys are having to deal with is unheard of. Appreciate what you guys are doing and what you're trying to do, and we can only do what supply and lets us do, but just let the people know that you guys are thinking about, you're trying to do the best that you can to get people back on their feet. It's just, gosh, we're running into stuff that we never thought, would become a problem. So, try to be patient, but we are trying to help you.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that this body and individuals did not see is in the days and hours leading up to the storm, we were actually working on securing locations for warming centers, reallocating generators, getting transfer switches on buildings. So if that, we did have to facilitate that, we were prepared to make that call and open up facilities. Fortunately, we did use a few facilities, but we didn't use a whole bunch. We've opened up some facilities for individuals to have access to. We provided some hotels for those that were in dire situations. And it was touched on earlier, but a marshal service drove staff to the hospital to make sure that we had adequate staff coverage. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and all the while, our offices are essentially closed. We had a lot of individuals working remotely, but there's a small team of individuals with David Moore and others that continue to work through all of that and deliver water and food and generators and heaters and any other oddball curveball that we have to field that day. So there's a pretty dedicated team of individuals that show up at the beck and call, and I'd just like to say thank you to those individuals.
And I'd like to say thank you to the Marshal Service too, because I know that they did deliver some food in my district. And I know they were out delivering heaters and like you said, taking doctors home. That's a good use of our resources, and they were in vehicles where they could get around, and by the time, sometimes when they were requested heaters, it was there in 2 hours. That's very impressive. So you guys did a good job of reacting to a lot of the problems. Is there anybody else? Sean?
LIHEAP, you gotta qualify for that, and so and you realize this and everybody, but there still needs to be some conversations about the wood stuff. I'd mentioned it to somebody about, teaching a young person to run a chainsaw ain't a bad, career service idea. I mean, just teaching some young folks. We got summer youth, do something in the wintertime. Of course, they'd have to be age appropriate to run the saws and stuff, but I didn't want that 89 number to be a deceiving number to the body, because I know 89 people I could name right here that burn wood.
Yeah, so
that
was just as comparison. So out of the number of people that we serve on LIHEAP, it's only a couple of thousand.
Right.
And so if you extrapolate that across 144,000 tribal citizens that live inside the 14 county jurisdiction, if we took that same percentage, it's going to be thousands upon thousands of people that still use wood. And then also those like me that supplement their gas heat with wood as well.
Well, during the blizzard, I was gonna say blizzard, heat it however you can, heat it. But there's a lot of elders and my folks going up. Of course, my dad cut his own wood, but they might have some other source. But they're watching their money. If they can burn that wood, they're gonna burn it and save some electricity. But I appreciate y'all having some more conversations about the old wood. I just didn't want that number to kind of resonate. They're just 89 people, and I'm sure nobody thought that, but there's a lot of wood burning going on. And if we can, I don't know if the career services idea was a good one, but I don't think it's a bad one. Just anyway, just rambling, but that old wood stuff, it's how important it is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we need to think outside the box a little bit on how we do things. I think that's a good idea. Speaker?
Yeah, so when I saw the numbers, I knew it's somewhere around 80 that Diane gave, wood 89, and you said you could name off, maybe that many, by yourself. Well, you have to think, I've got a brother-in-law, he's 73 years old. He uses wood, but he cuts it. That's old school. We've got a younger generation that are so computer-minded, that I don't know if they could cut wood. And you can tell when you shake their hands, because their hands aren't calloused. Yeah, that's a whole different generation here, but we need to teach these people how to fish. And it's aggravating sometimes when you see these people. Now, there are exceptions. You're talking about, and I go home where I'm from, and there's people that are elderly. Now, they need wood. And you know, we've done whatever we can to help them out. But those grandsons and those sons that are out there, they need to take care of their families. I mean, that's the way we were all raised. You know, you don't ever want grandma to be out of wood. You want to go take care of grandma. That's the old school. This new generation, I don't know what to say. I mean, they're some of the brightest people we have, but hands aren't calloused. Their fingernails, because they're on that computer all the time. So I would like to get back to somehow being more innovative and creative and make sure we have piles of wood for those elderly and some of those disabled veterans that need this, because those are the calls that I've gotten over the break, is a lot of disabled veterans that didn't have any way to get out. And then when I called for wood a few days ago, we didn't have any, and it really surprised me, because I thought, you know, south of town, we might have had some around Delanegi, because we usually do. When other tribes needed it, we were able to provide. And now we're all going to start having to help each other out here. And we have land, tribal land, and we need to look at that policy there, because a lot of our tribal members cannot cut wood on our tribal lands because of the policy. Is that the forestry department that has the policy in place where we cannot go on our own lands and cut wood because of liability issues? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I need to go back and double check that with our AG's office on access to the land, and then also with the Secretary of Natural Resources to make sure that there's not going to be any issues one way or the other. But
Good.
yeah, I will look at it and see what our options are to be able to open that up and see what our options are.
I appreciate that. No, we've got to have some reserves here, because you know, the numbers, the ones you didn't get was electric 692, natural gas 464, propane 623, wood 89, pellets 10. I thought pellets had been higher. We may have to invest in our own propane company. I mean, something to look at. I mean, I think we talked about it once. We just never did move forward on it. But this has kind of been a lesson for us in this kind of storm that we weren't prepared for. But it'll make us tougher down the road. But we have to take care of a lot of people right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Speaker. Good words. And one other thing real quick, I tell you what saved most communities here and saved us is people took care of each other. Because I know on Facebook they were saying so-and-so needs wood, so-and-so needs wood, they're an elders, and people were going out and getting it for them. So the people did a great job of taking care of each other. Is anybody else? All right, Michael, thank you, sir. All right,
Thank you,
wait,
Mr.
I
Chair.
got one more. I'm sorry. Joe Deere, did you have a comment?
Yeah, Director Lid and Speaker and Harley, just FYI, we've started those talks in Tulsa because my little area over here in Tulsa backs up to Osage and the creeks. And what we're finding out is some of those aren't owned by ODOT. They're actually owned by the city. City Catoosa actually has to take care of the maintenance under the bridge by our casino, where it comes over from creek to here. Osage is the same. And then we have the arterial streets, Yale, Sheridan, Harvard, are maintained by the city of Tulsa. So the commissioner here has already engaged those guys and ODOT in that top, Mike. So that should be pretty easy in this area and by Dora's area. So just an FYI, they are aware that we're fixing to change some of that to basically put our stamp on there. So just thought I'd let you know those talks are already there. The commissioners are already in talks with DOT and the city. So there's jurisdiction problems between city and ODOT when it comes to certain areas. Thanks, Chairman.
All right, thanks,
Very good.
sir. Thanks for that input.
I appreciate that information.
All right, we are running low on time. Michael, thank you. Jerry Killer, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I know there's a ton of things going on with housing. If everybody has had a chance to look at Jerry's information, does anybody have anything for Jerry? Kanan.
Just wanted to publicly say I appreciate you, Jerry. You've been so responsive and helpful, and you've just dove right in, and it's not unnoticed. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Anybody else? Sean?
I just want to second Kanan's words. I appreciate you answering that phone and hitting the ground running. Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, thank you.
Victoria?
I'm going to pile on the positive. I feel the same way. Thank you so much, Jerry. I appreciate your quick response.
Anybody else?
Well, thank you.
I gotta jump on too. You did the same for me. I've called you a bunch. Thank you so much. All right, Jerry.
I said it first, Jerry.
Gotcha. I got it written down in order.
All right, Jerry, you're officially cut off. All right, Anna Knight.
Good afternoon. You guys have a copy of my report. The only thing I have to add is we're trying to play catch up from last week on tax preparation, but we're working everybody into the schedule, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Anna? Sean?
Dang, I got to do this too, because I've been sending her a lot of stuff, so I appreciate you, Anna, answering that phone. Thank you.
Kanan, I guess you want to pile on next?
Oh, yeah, always. I always appreciate Anna Knight.
All right. Anybody else have anything for Anna? Anna, good job. Thank you, and be safe. Okay.
You too.
Old business, none pending. New business, none pending. Do I have any announcements? I have some announcements for Joe Deere. On food distributions, Tuesday at OSU Tulsa, 5 to 7 p.m. Wednesday, Turley Church, 5 to 7 p.m. Saturday at Tulsa Dream Center, 9 to 11 a.m. Next month, starting, it's going to be at the Sperry Armory on Wednesdays. And the Catoosa Community Organization will be to be announced, but they will do it there too. So do I have anything else? All right, need one more motion. Second.